Hello everyone, I'm Ruchira Hujbul, your host for the People of Space series, where we are interacting with young professionals, students, and experts from the space industry itself and learning their space journey.
Inspire the world, a brand new face. Welcome to the people of space.
For this particular episode, today with us we have Davi Souza. Hi Davi, it's a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you very
And
much for having me, for the invitation.
And I would take this moment to introduce you to our audience. Davi is a greenhouse specialist, space farming researcher, and a consultant with over 6 years of technical expertise and experience in the controlled environment agriculture sector. He has expertise in smart cultivation systems with the use of sensors, multi-controllers, automation, and the Internet of Things for agriculture on Earth as well as space. Davi started his journey as a researcher and an analog astronaut at the first space analog station in South America, Habitat Marte. In 2021, he was also nominated by the Brazilian Space Agency for the IFA Young Space Leaders Recognition Program presented by the International Astronautical Federation, which I think is a huge thing. And we are so glad to have you here, Davi. So
Thank you
let's
very much.
dive into it. My first very question is to you two is like imagine your childhood self. You saw yourself now, and as a greenhouse specialist, a space farmer. What do you think he would say? Would he believe it?
Um, this is a fun fact about my journey that my mom always motivated me to be whatever I want. And when I was younger, I asked her, "May I become an astronaut?" And she said, like, if you study so, you can make it. So you have the potential to make it. So I would say that I maybe not ever imagined that I would be working directly with space, but I do imagine that I was wanting to do something huge, impactful for people in general. So I never thought it would be together with agriculture, with farming, but at the same time, my family, we came from Brazilian countryside, and like my grandfather, he was a farmer when he was younger. So I kind of had already this in my
Mhm.
blood. It was just waiting to express, but then it expressed it throughout the technology, throughout the innovation, and it's exactly like why now I'm dealing with space farming and controlled environment agriculture.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
yeah, he would be surprised if I was talking about space, most probably.
I think it starts out the same for most of us. Like we don't really intend to do anything related to space, but somehow our passion leads us back to the space industry, right?
Exactly.
So you began as an electrical technician, and now you're researching the future of space agriculture. So was there any definite moment you realized that this was the very path that you wanted to take?
Um, well, I had two different big moments, let's say like that. The
Mhm,
first one was when I was finishing my technician course. I was
mhm,
trying to find something like as a final project because it's also requested as a like for us to have like a thesis.
mhm,
Um, but it was more open to see like any type of thesis that prototypes, for example, building a prototype of something working related to the area of electrotechnician. And I had a knowledge already acquired during the period of the technician in microcontrollers.
mhm,
And the moment that I decided that okay, I want to work with smart greenhouses, I will the prototype, my final course, my final thesis, my final work of the course will be developing a prototype of a smart greenhouse.
mhm,
This was like one of the key moments that I decided, okay, I will work with smart agriculture. And it was a process that that time I was together with some colleagues. We were trying, like, when you are close to like a specific group and you are concluding your course,
yeah.
there is a tendency that we are going to develop something with them, like keep working together. But then my colleagues, these ones, they were two, and they both of them, they didn't want to continue with electrical engineering. They were wanting to move to law. So they were just looking for something to finish fast, like get the grades and start their course in all. And I was the only one who wasn't planning to do that. So it was then I decided like, okay, I will move with this. This project is it became my project, and I want to further develop this, no matter if I'm doing this together with someone or by myself. So then I decided to move forward by myself. Um, and I would say maybe 2 years later, I was already with the project. I had presented, was almost done. One professor from calculus, he introduced me to Habitat Marte. He'd say like, "Oh, there's an analog station close to here. They talk about space. Perhaps you can search for it." I spent a while until I reached Professor Julio Rezende, which is the coordinator of Habitat Marte. But once I reached it, like my first mission, I would say this was the second moment of my life, because it was the mission that Professor Julio introduced me to the whole sectors, whole space sector. I wasn't aware about SpaceX stuff, like wasn't aware of what is an analog mission. It was a huge introduction about the possibilities of space. And then I decided that okay, now I can do like now I can apply this knowledge that I have with smart agriculture and implement this to space and do the same, like do the spin-off also technology transfer, which is super important. So these are the two moments that first I decided to work with smart agriculture, and the second one when I saw myself doing space.
I think that's amazing that you shared the part where at the end of the project you yourself had to work on it, but you didn't give up and continued working on your passion, and here you are now working in the
Yeah,
industry. Yeah.
exactly.
So the second thing you highlighted was the habitat market. As you have already given us a bit idea about it, I would like to know what was the biggest challenge you faced in this unique experience, and how did it shape your approach towards specifically space farming?
Okay, this is one thing that people might not know. Um, Habitat Marte right now is in mission, almost mission, I think 180, very close to mission 200. Very, very close. But my first mission at Habitat Marte was mission 10.
Mhm.
So people sometimes do not realize how long has been that I first started working with Habitat Marte. Like I started very young, started my pathway like at the beginning of the graduation. So I didn't lose that much time when I joined the university. Um, and by that time, even there was no greenhouse.
Mhm.
Like there was no farming system. There was an area that like just a building, a small building without roof, like kind of not being utilized. And I say to the professor, let's make this a greenhouse.
Mhm.
So, and we started building the greenhouse from zero, from scratch. For me, it was my first ever experience of building a like by that time I was only build I have only built like my prototype, a very small system for like what um growing some herbs to put like as sauces in my food. So it was the first time that I was growing something like to eat. So lettuce, like also we grow some herbs like basil, but mainly we were having also like tomatoes and all of this. So like building the system from scratch, like learning from the basics, learning uh how to proper cut a pipe, how to like do the connections, very basic, something that like sometimes is like we normally say like the basic work, but it's like the very necessary work like to make things happen. And this was fundamental in the other projects like that I participated, because I started with this challenge of building one system from zero. I started building systems from zero. Like coming up, it was now it's more easy for me. Like I see in a specific area, I see a specific opportunity of implementing a project. I can come up with like any sort of solution from zero, like defining the basic requirements, to coming up with some innovation, some like having this mindset of like anything can become an innovation, like anything
Mhm.
can become a system, like any area for me, like I can see where can I put a plant in here and all of this. So I would say this design oriented project, like design oriented mindset for greenhouse systems, I think this was one of my biggest challenges and achievements during that market.
Amazing. I mean, someone hearing it for the first time would realize that it always comes down to basics. If you know your basics, if you know what you're really doing, then you can scale it up and actually achieve it. So that's
Yeah, the
amazing. And thank you
theory.
for sharing it.
Yes, yes, you are welcome. Like, the theory is okay. There are people that normally they go for the theory first, then they apply.
In
I'm
the
not
practice.
like this. I'm a hands-on person, so I want to understand. I understand better when I'm like practical activities, when I'm putting my hands on it, and
Yeah.
after like I can understand. For example, after a while, last semester I was having a course of transport phenomena, but like
Mhm.
the examples of the classes in my mind was mostly like, oh, how is a ventilation system inside a greenhouse? Oh, how does the fluid of a pipe inside a pipe that is doing the irrigation, how this happens? So then I can start thinking about the theory like in practical terms. For me, this makes more sense. Some people do not have this, like this is my
Yeah.
way of understanding things.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand because I think here in India, it's mostly theory based rather than hands-on practice or, giving people the real on-field work, which actually helps us to understand and build. So I completely understand. I myself prefer, like being an aerospace engineer, prefer hands-on things, but most of the time you have to stick with the theory. But yeah,
Yeah.
moving on. Controlled environment agriculture is still a new concept, very new concept. So, can you share a bit of basics of it? What we would essentially need if we want to set it up on Mars?
Okay, perfect. This is a really good question because um so the first point is that when we are considering controlled environment agriculture, the big topic, the big sector, we are talking about high tech farming.
Mm-hmm.
Like people sometimes they do not understand that it's controlled environment agriculture. Let's just put a cover here in our farm and it's controlled, like our environment is controlled. No, this is like a protected environment. This is protected agriculture. So it's kind of different. Like the big thing of controlled environment agriculture is having control systems.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like what does means, like control systems that will support you in the environment where your plants are growing. So if you have this, you can discuss like in different other approaches. Like first, you can control your system inside of a room, a small room. This is an indoor farm. You
Yeah.
can control the system inside of a container. This is a container farm. You can control the system and stack a lot of modules, a lot of layers, and you have a vertical farm. So, like, whatever you are doing there inside of your environment that is controlled, you can do like different approaches of farming. So you have the system design. You can come up with different irrigation system, like different type of hydroponics, like fertigation, like fertigation in general, but like aeroponics, hydroponics, nutrient film technique, and all of this. So um, basically, I see, at least I envision that, like based on my working regard standardization of controlled environment agriculture, it's like I started to envision that any basic high-tech farming, like high-tech farming system, needs four main things. An illumination system, because you are in a closed environment. So, for example, in the case of Mars, like you do not have too much radiation coming from the sun, not too much radiation. Radiation, there will be a lot. Like you don't have too much lighting from coming from the sun because Mars is far. So you need to be in a closed environment. So it's mandatory to have artificial lighting systems. And most of them, they will be like utilized to orient plant growth. This is also another big thing of having artificial lighting systems. The second one is the nutrient delivery system. You have something that will do the irrigation, that will transport the nutrients for your plant. As I mentioned, there is hydroponics, aeroponics, different type of systems. The other thing is the atmosphere management system, is the way that you will control your temperature, your relative humidity, your vapor, the vapors in your environment, the CO2. Um, and it's mainly like circulating the air. We don't have in microgravity, for example, we don't have convection. With the
Mm-hmm.
air like does not move, so you need to have a forced convection there. You must have systems that will allow you to do that, not only to do, for example, the cooling. They call this HVAC. It's heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. So it's the like the union of all of this. What do you want? You want to heat? You want to cool down your environment, or you just want to ventilate? So these are the three basics that interfaces with the which I say the plant growth unit, where your plant is. But this is there is another one that I call the greenhouse control unit, or GCU. This is where my work is mainly based. Like the GCU is like the brain, it's working on the brain, like coordinating the other three systems. So I would say that any controlled environment agricultural system it needs to utilize at least like this division of subsystems in one way or another. So this is my standardization approach. And this is what I consider that every controlled environment agricultural system can implement in this way of thinking.
That's amazing. I mean, it was new for me as well to learn that there are so many systems that work together to make this entire thing work and function, right? So if
Yeah,
you have interest just in, say, the hydroponics, aeroponics, or even designing just the structure of the habitat, you can contribute. So you did not have to be like knowing everything at once. You can come up with one systems and start building and learning for.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
like people like who are interested in the control hardware, which is my case. We will try
Hmm.
to understand how to implement each one of the other systems in a coordinated, in a controlled, or in an
Yeah.
optimized way. So it's exactly this. This is exactly the aim.
Right. So while answering the question, you mentioned about vertical farms, right? So
Yeah.
you've worked on Brazil's first vertical and urban farm. So now you're developing systems for them. So how do earth-based agricultural practices inspire or directly translate working there, the experience that you have gained would help you develop the systems in space?
Okay. First, I must say that I told that my experience in Habitat Marte was very useful with the basics. So this is exactly the basics that I was utilizing in pink farms. So like the same, like I had the opportunity there as an intern to work from the zero, like building a vertical farming tower from zero. Like they had two towers, I built one of
Mhm,
them, not alone by myself, guided by the engineering team, and together with other two interns, like a mechanical and mechatronic engineer student. So it was a three guys, electrical engineering, mechanics, and mechatronics, like three guys from like STEAM careers
mhm,
working with agriculture. It was really cool because like we developed the system from zero, like from um, putting the small rollments that will support the tray of the plants to go in and go out, like putting the pipes. And then as an electrical engineering intern, I was responsible also not only to come up with the system itself, but like doing all the electrical parts. So I created the light profile. It's not this one. This is just like a illustration one, but this one in my background, I was able to create the light profile of the farm. So from zero, like doing the small circuits, putting them together, installing, connecting, testing. So doing the maintenance. So I learned all these basics, and routing like labor is all about what astronaut will be doing in space. Like they, of course, like we want to reach automated systems to avoid the labor, but also astronauts, they must have this contact with the with growing plants. So I would say that space research provided me the necessary knowledge to go to pink farms and develop systems. On another point of view, this was very fun because when I arrived at Pink Farms, I was talking that I do research about space farming and so on, and they always had like the approach with their clients saying, we can grow with this design, we can grow plants everywhere. We can set up a similar farm in another place, in another region of Brazil, Brazilian Northeast, in the North region, in the South region, so we can expand this farm very easily. But then they didn't realize that. And I told them, like, if you can expand everywhere in Brazil, you can expand this even to space. So,
Right.
and this was exactly like I was the person who started like introducing them. Like, no one from the team of engineers, they were aware of the potential use of space technologies there on the farm. So, like, even my bosses, there was one day that like I was doing some research in a container farm called Eden ISS. Is a container farm that operated in Antarctica for almost 6 years, and I was going deeper into like understanding the atmosphere management system because they were having trouble with the atmosphere management system of the vertical farm. And I was like searching for videos and so on, and the CEO of the company passed behind me. He saw my computer, like, which is the system? What are you checking right now? Oh no, this is a space farming research system like implemented and so on. And he was like, send me this video. So like, and I started making them aware about like, oh, there are a lot of space farming technologies that we utilize here in the farm, and the LED, for example, and we can take more advantage of the research that is being doing in space farming, exactly like to bring that to the farm and like, pushing even more the potential of the farm to come up with better solutions with like more efficient systems. So this is one practical example. I can mention many others, but like from my path related to pink farms, I think this is the main one.
I mean, it's so good to hear that generally we have these examples of how things were developed for space and then they are now being utilized in our day-to-day life. But seeing the other way around, that the daily things that we use right now at this present moment could be also like taken up and scaled to make a habitable system right there in space. So it was really nice
Exactly.
hearing from your experience. So now you're talking about the work that you have done, and people will have interest to know more about it. So if one wants to learn the basics, I think your course, the Space Farming 101, which is for the CEA professionals. So can you tell us more about the course, where that the people could find it, and what all they could learn through the course?
Sure. Well, the Space Farming 101, he was created as part of like I would say an international partnership based on my desire to educate people in space farming. Um, I partnered with a consulting company, American consulting company called Agritecture,
Mhm.
and we had like almost 1 year of discussions to come up with a proper solution. And the course was the first solution. Like this was a really good partnership. Agritecture, they are a group of consultants that they are very recognized worldwide. Like they have consulting projects in agriculture, urban farming, greenhouses, and vertical farms. So they are highly experienced, and their public is mainly farmers, growers, people that are in the CEA industry. And it's exactly like I realized in pink farms that they were not aware of space farming. So I wanted to make people aware about the potential of space farming. And this is all about SF 101. The course, it's part like if someone is interested to check there, you can just search agritecture designer, which is the platform of agritecture. Like they have a specific platform where the course is hosted. So, and you can once you open architecture designer, there is on the top right part premium courses. So it's my course will be there. Space Farming 101 will be there. The first class is available for free, like everyone who wants to watch, to see what they can expect in the course. But this is the main idea of the Space Farming 101, is like making people aware about the advances and the benefits from space farming and how they can utilize in their farms here on Earth. So it's like is knowing that, oh, NASA did already this research with photobiology. Like there is a lot of research in utilizing aeroponic systems in microgravity. So like how can we translate this type of system, this type of solution to our farm here on Earth? So the course is exactly this. It's showing the basics, like all we have in space farming, coming from environmental control and life support systems to bioregenerative life support systems, then showing like technology per technology. Like I utilize a specific methodology which I divided exactly the subsystems that I mentioned here to you. So like people will understand each subsystem, the technologies, the research being doing like in space already about that specific systems, and how they are being already utilized, like how other farms are utilizing that same technology in terrestrial farming concept. So it's a course that it's basically like it's showing like one A plus B is exactly like space farming together with controlled environment agriculture. Like there is a point of intersection, so you can find a result on this, and this is exactly what the course is about.
Perfect. So we'll put the link of the course so whoever interested can find the course and reach out to Davi in case there are any questions. And I hope you will help them out as well. Now, you
Thank you.
mentioned about a lot of research. So we all know that climate change has become a huge problem and conditions here on Earth are worsening. So when you talked about an example of how the research is being conducted in Antarctica, so such research which are done in the extreme environments, how do you think these innovations will help us address food security issues here right on Earth? And also, will they help us develop a sustainable life elsewhere as well?
Okay, so this was a very interesting, let's say, definition of my way of working, my way of researching, which was like when I was in Habitat Marte. Habitat Marte is located in the Brazilian semi-arid region, which we consider a very extreme region of Brazil, because this is a region where we faced it for 10 years, severe droughts, like 10 years without raining. So very low rates of raining, like and very high temperatures. So I had the opportunity after, like very recently, actually was my last in my, let's say, my last professional endeavor. I lived in Saudi Arabia for 8 months, and I had the opportunity there to work with agriculture on the desert. And then I realized that, okay, I did research with agriculture in semi-arid region, which is extreme. I worked in pink farms that they had a farm in a urban center, the biggest urban center in Brazil, which is São Paulo. And this is an environment that they have high concentrations of carbon dioxide emitted, like a lot of emissions there, because it's a region like super crowded, a lot of cars and so on. And I would say that this can be also like the air pollution and all of this can be also an extreme environment. So a vertical urban farm located in an extreme environment. The desert greenhouse that I was working there in Saudi, another extreme environment. And space itself is an extreme environment. So like, and this was like I would say the way that I started like connecting the dots of like all the research that I have been doing, like all the step by step that I have been doing. So we are now discussing about systems that are more resilient, that are less um less exposed to problems, like to some events that might be caused by climate change. So in Brazil, very recently, we have the South region flooded. We had a huge flood, and that region of Brazil is responsible for most of the production of rice, which is like a commodity that India also is very strong in producing. So Brazil is behind India on this. But like all the rice that we consume in our country and that we export is grow in that region, is growing in that region. And with the flooding, the farmers they lost everything. They accounted for, I would say like at least $1 billion like for the region. And the worst part, I'm not even talking about human resources, people who lost their houses, like their families and so on. But the worst part is also that all the growing of rice was impacted, and Brazil started to import rice from other countries, and because otherwise the rice price would increase in the market, and this is like the basic of our diet here in Brazil. So imagine like increasing the prices of rice, like which is a very basic food, like how do people will have access to it? So the
Yeah.
country, the president, he needed to start buying rice to avoid this increasing of this rising on the prices. So look at the impact. This is exactly caused by climate change effect. So if you are talking about systems that they can be like developed in urban centers, for example, like with structures that are more like are less, like for example, a flood will not impact that system, will not enter in that specific greenhouse or in that specific vertical farm. So you could grow things despite of the external environment. And other approaches is like the logistic thing. Like here in Brazil, we have like a food chain that at least I would give like an average, but like from 30% to 70% of the food that is produced on the farm doesn't reach the final consumer because of wastes. So this is a huge amount. And if we are having the opportunity to bring the systems to urban center, we can avoid this like wasteful logistical change. So like there are many opportunities. I could list many of them, but like we can think now in terms of having more resilient systems that will allow us to grow more efficient and to avoid wastes. So this is like I think the first step if we are aiming like to overcome climate change effects, because this is exactly what will happen. Like we will have like an increase of like the crops, they will start not growing well in the external environment anymore, so we need to find other ways to grow that specific crops and so on. Like basically this is like understanding the local needs and providing solutions to attend their demands. Like it's like it should be more oriented. For example, I'm now with a project to grow hope, to produce craft beers, but to grow hope in the Brazilian Northeast. And hope is a species that is mostly grown in Brazilian South region, which is colder. So, and we are trying to bring like a very new technology, like a container farm, high technological one to that region. And we want to show that to the craft beers, like the people who produce craft beers. Look, you can have a system. You don't need to import anymore from outside. You can have your own hope here, fresh hope, and you can even like come up with a high quality hope because you are growing in a controlled environment. You are growing like controlling every aspect of your environment, so the plant will respond much better.
That was really enlightening to hear how actually we can see climate change impacting regions that we live in and how it affects the common people who are earning their bread and butter through this no, very like rice, which is very common in India as well. So like the entire more than half of the population depends on rice to have their daily meals. So it was really, really important to highlight that to be resilient, efficient, and start thinking about how we can do things much, much better now. So as now
Exactly.
we are moving to the end of the interview, I would like to have a quick rapid fire round. You can just answer one word in less than a minute. So Mars or Moon as the best destination for space farming?
Um, I am Martian guy. I would go for Mars directly. Like I think we can learn much more, but like have NASA and all the other space agencies will not agree with me. They play safe. They are right. They are doing right. It's necessary to play safe to build capacity and increase the technology readiness level. But I think that like going to Mars, we'll learn much more. But of course, if we do not do this right, we'll lose a lot of money.
Lot
So
of,
they do not
yes,
want.
Mars it is that you will go for. Now, favorite futuristic food? Would it be 3D printed, lab grown, or directly grown in space?
Favorite tool. So in terms of space exploration, I would say that it would be much better to have something in space, like some type of in situ resource utilization. So plant-based materials, plant-based tools, plant-based solutions, I think in general, like from structures, because we have the opportunity to have like structures to grow plants with plants, like plant-based solutions, exactly, like not only uh, like for example for dietary needs,
Mhm.
people are talking also like plant-based meat, like 3D printed meat and so on. So I would say that the best scenario would be having something from like built in space, made in space, and I think this is the way to go. But like also thinking that um, most of the knowledge, most of the things that we are going to do there are like based on our terrestrial experience. So we might need maybe a scissor, we might need other tools that are also necessary, like on farm.
Yeah. And I also think that having freshly grown fruit would have a nicer psychological impact on the crew rather than having processed food. So that would be one of the aspects as well. Favorite plant that you have worked on in a controlled environment?
Um, until now, I had the opportunity to work mainly with leafy greens.
Mm-hmm.
I conducted some experiments growing lettuce, and this was most of like it was the crop that was mainly growing pink farms. Um, I grow also tomatoes, basil. I think like the most cool one, like that, the one that I grow and I came up with a product that was really good was the growth of basil,
Oh,
because we made a pesto sauce. I was able to like put the seedlings, like the seeds there, see the plant growing, producing, and then like doing the harvesting. And I was like, okay, what can I do with this basil? Then I started like searching for some recipes, and I started trying different recipes of preparing pesto. So like I had a lot of fun, like the post harvesting process. Like I had the opportunity to, let's say, explore a lot different tastes because the basil was growing a lot, and like I was being able to do that. But I would say that um, I had the opportunity to briefly work with strawberries. I think it will be really cool. I have grown strawberries in the desert greenhouse there in Kaos, but I was not able to conclude my experiments there with. I just concluded with leaf greens. I run off time with the strawberries, unfortunately, so I didn't had that good results by that time. But I would really like, in one certain point, is to talk about coffee. I think
mm-hmm.
like I really like coffee. I wouldn't go to space without coffee. I would love to have like my glass of coffee in the morning in space. So I think this is one crop that I might start investigate very soon. For now, I'm having fun with a bit of hope. As I mentioned, I am currently working on a project that we are trying to expand the cultivation of hope in like other environments. And like it's very exciting to see the process of like coming up with the plant, coming up with a product that will be processed and it will transform in beer, which I also like as much as coffee. So yeah, so having two different like material source, like plant-based material source that I will utilize in another product, it's really cool. Like the hope becoming a beer, like a coffee becoming a mug of coffee, but the coffee beans become a mug of coffee, and also the same of the basil becoming the pesto sauce.
I think I'm good with all the three. I love all three of them. So yes,
Yes.
kudos to you. Keep working on it and we'll have the product.
Mm. Yeah.
So now as we are nearing the end, I would like to know what is your dream project in the field? Is there a specific mission? Is there any specific experiment that you would like to lead someday when you move further in your journey?
Yeah, I think this was a very intrapersonal, let's say like that, discussion. Like me discussing with friends, like discussing with my wife also, like everything. What can I do? Like I realized that living in space is not a deal anymore for me. My wife wouldn't allow me to do that. But at least like a trip, like very short trip to
Mm-hmm.
International Space Station, maybe by that time a private space station or like lunar habitat, but Mars, no, unfortunately. But I would love one day to coordinate, to be like, let's say, the Martian greenhouse chief, like the responsible for the operations of a greenhouse operating on Mars. I think this would be like my ultimate project, let's say like that, like the project that I would like to build. As I mentioned, like I don't want to send a greenhouse to the moon first. I want to send directly to Mars. But so like I need to build capability enough like to send greenhouses to space. This is my current aim. Inside of satellites, maybe a project that will go to the International Space Station. Um, and I think this ultimate project would be like acquiring the necessary knowledge to come up with a greenhouse, like imagine like in other words, imagine putting a greenhouse inside of a rover or a lander. Like we can have don't need the greenhouse to start moving the environment, but just a lander, like stopping there and growing the crops, doing like at least one, two, or three cycles of growth. This would be really cool, and I would say that sending a mission to Mars that I will be coordinator growing plants. I think this is one of the things that you might hear about it very soon, hopefully.
Oh, nice. We look forward to hearing the news then.
Thank you.
Yes. And also, last but not least, you were nominated for the Young Space Leaders Program by the
Yeah.
Brazil Space Agency. So, how was it being nominated, and what message would you like to give to the young professionals or students that are coming into the industry and looking up to young professionals like you?
So this is very fun because by that time I was involved with a lot of things related to space. And like I was coordinating this students for exploration and development of space SEDS, like one branch
Yes.
of SEDS. I was in Habitat Marte, so like I was involved with many space projects. Um, so I had and I was publishing a lot also, and I have during my period in Habitat Marte, one thing that I started doing a lot was science communication. So I basically started multitasking in space. Like I was doing extracurricular activities. I was going to Habitat Marte, participating in the missions, creating papers, doing research, like basic research, but at the same time doing science communication. For now, I'm more like the research side. I'm involved in a few projects and doing science communication. So I'm like not into the extracurricular activities, not like for now, like not participating in analog missions because like now I have other focus. Um, but basically, like coming up with these necessary tools related to space I started like seeing that, come on, I'm doing great stuff. That by that time, as a like student initiating my career, I commonly say that I didn't have anyone to talk about space farming in Portuguese because like I was by myself in Brazil discussing about space farming. It was really cool when I had my first Brazilian mentor talking about space farming with me. Like, not, Professor Julio was one of them, but I had another professor, like an astrobotanist, talking about like space farming, plants in space with me in Portuguese. So it was really cool. Um, and by that time, I was like, okay, I wanna see if this is worthy like to compete internationally, and this is exactly what the young space leaders aim. Like it's a competition and award, worldwide award, made by IAF, by the International Astronautical Federation, and like to participate in this, you should have a nomination from some company or agency linked to the IAF.
Mhm.
And the only company or agency that was linked here in Brazil was the Brazilian Space Agency. So it was basically like, hey, do you have any nomination? No,
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm here, so I'm doing a lot of stuff. We can compete. Like we
Mhm.
can at least doing this together. So by that time, I contact them. They evaluated my application. They agree with that, and they submitted my application for the international competition. So for me, specifically at that time, I was super focused on the international like competition and all of this that I didn't like gave too much attention to that. And after the competition, I realized, wow, okay, I was not nominated internationally, but I was nominated in the whole country. So this is also a big thing. And like this motivated me a lot exactly to continue with these activities. For now, like for example, in Brazil, it's very difficult to not see me doing any type of science communication here. Like sometimes I with my webinars. I am like doing lectures for schools, for university courses. I'm always talking about, like, very recently, I gave a class in a master course in agriculture, so in agronomy. So it's exactly like I'm always talking about space farming. I continue doing that. And I think this is the like what I want to bring to people that are entering the sector, the field. Like sometimes space make this with us. We look too far. We aim like super in the future, and sometimes we just forget about like the small accomplishments. That's why like it like we aim Mars, but we need to know that we must celebrate when we arrive the moon, you know.
Yes.
So like bringing this analogy to our scenario is like sometimes we are looking like to the final goal and we do not stay happy or celebrate with the small achievements that are leading us to that final goal. So and I think this was one of the greatest, like realizations of my professional career. Like very young, still an undergraduate student, still starting my research and all of this, like having the opportunity to be recognized like this, to have a proper curricular, to have a proper experience, to compete in these international competitions. Like this was a great thing for me, and this is, I would say that this was a big motivator for me to continue doing what I'm doing right now, exactly like with science communication, to be like more proactive in doing things that will provide real impact. Like exactly for now, my partnership with agriculture is expanded to other series. Like we'll have like conversations about space farming. I will bring like top experts from the field. Like I during this period, I was able to create my network, and I'm giving this as advices for people. So build your network, go to LinkedIn, reach out to people, professionals that are already involved in the field. They always have something to share. And this was exactly what made me reach where I am now, like made me accomplish what I have accomplished until now. So this nomination of the Brazilian Space Agency was one of these accomplishments, and I'm very grateful for having this opportunity super young, like being able to like be already together with the Brazilian Space Agency at this age. Like it's not every young student or like young professional that can do that. So For me, it's like a way of inspiring. I came from the Brazilian Northeast, like I didn't have that much opportunities, but I was always doing my best to come up with effective solutions to effective outcomes for the people. And this is what I continue doing. And I think like everyone in the field must understand that, okay, we should focus in our technical expertise, technical background. We should look at bigger projects, but never forget that people must know why you are doing that. People must know like the impact that you are providing, not only for you, not only for your career, but like a broader impact for society, for human beings.
That was the perfect answer because there was so much to learn from it. Like coming, just graduating and coming into this huge industry sometimes puts pressure on you because you feel left out, you feel that you're not doing much. But as you highlighted that whatever you're doing, celebrate it now and keep planning, doing things, being involved in projects and taking steps ahead. Davi, thank you so much. It was really inspiring to hear you talk about your passion in the industry and how you're working towards it. Thank you for your time. And if you have the podcast series that you're going to start coming up soon, do let us know. We will share with our audience as well.
I was just saying, like, for those who are interested to be more aware of space farming and so on, like, I'm very active on my LinkedIn. You can find me very easy. It's always good, like, to have people reaching out, making questions, connect. So, LinkedIn's for that. And I will be more than happy to like having people there, like talking, creating this community that is interested in space farming is always really good. And I'll be posting all the upcoming events, like initiatives that I will be doing like very soon in January. We already have booked. We'll start. You are receiving this information, very new information. When it's live, people will see maybe like at the 22nd of January, we'll have like the first episode of Space Egg Updates, which will be like a round table just discussing about space farming, talking about the news of the sector, like a tablecast that will just sit and talk, like having coffee and talk about space farming, and everyone is invited with questions, with like curiosity. Like the aim of these things is like making space, let's say, a good topic to chat when you are home drinking a coffee or having a beer. So it's always really good to talk about this stuff, this sector in general.
Yes, thank you. I'll share your LinkedIn with our viewers, and if they have any questions, they can directly reach you out.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you once
Thank
again
you.
for having me. It's a pleasure.